Okay, so first, what do the terms hope and the impossible mean for you? Hope in most cases is optimism, to want something and to anticipate it. There are many ways to use the word hope, and by extension, there are many ways to hope. And what about the impossible? Something that's unachievable and something that's incapable of happening according to known data, right? Hope as a concept has no limits, and the impossible as a concept is a limit. So what happens when you put both together? Second of all, what comes to your mind when you think of Superman? Some would say he's a big blue Boy Scout, some would think of Henry Cavill, some would say he's boring, some would think of his overpowered powers, and some would say hope. I mean, the S stands for hope, right? Yeah, it's easy to say he's hopeful, but what does that really mean? There are thousands of hopeful characters, so what's so special about Superman himself? In recent memory, we've seen a large resurgence in Superman love, and I'm absolutely all for that because people have been thinking he's boring for years because of Man of Steel and the DCEU. Now we have what? The Starman memes, him finally being treated correctly in media, with like My Adventures with Superman and the James Gunn movie. That's for another day. We're not here to talk about those. No, I'm here to yap about what I love about the character and what he stands for. But aren't there like countless other videos that can explain it better than I can? So isn't it like impossible for me to say anything that hasn't been said before? I'll try. And what better way is there to do that than to talk about the comic all about using hope to try to do the impossible? Superman Up in the Sky. Probably my favorite comic right now. Alright, so the basic premise of the comic is a little girl from Gotham named Alice gets abducted by an unknown alien and is taken up in the sky and into the depths of space. Her foster family was all murdered, and the last surviving sister tells Superman what happened after Batman advised him to go see her. Now, being himself, Clark obviously wants to help in any way he can, so naturally he brings it up to his boss, Perry White, who is appalled by the idea that Clark would even suggest that, and like, he doesn't want to, throw away his best reporter on some case that happened in Gotham of all places. This doubt in Clark and the situation carries on over onto even the Green Lantern Corps. Clark also went to inform them about what happened, see if they have anything, but they have nothing. Whatever took Alice was untraceable. It's a big universe and we're pretty damn small. It already seemed like all hope was lost, and everyone thinks it's impossible to find, let alone save Alice. Everyone but Batman and Pa Kent, that is. Two people who are incredibly important to Superman and are both very adamant about Clark leaving Earth to go track her down. I mean, obviously Clark's doubtful of this idea. That would take weeks and even months. I mean, Perry is right? Why would we waste our time, our best resources, and our best hero on just one little girl? He's Superman. He has people to save, right? Yeah, he's Superman. And he has a person to save. This whole little scene with Pa Kent is just so sweet. Despite acknowledging the fact that it's insane to go out into the abyss to find one person, and the fact that the Lantern Corps are on the lookout for her, he still thinks that Clark should do it, telling him that no matter what, that kid will still hold on to hope, just like how Clark had hope for every little issue that he had. During this whole sequence, Clark is shown fighting robots and dinosaurs, stopping crashing planes and asteroids, and just shows how necessary Clark's presence is on Earth. Yeah, if I try to go into every little adventure he has on the 6-issue run and how much I love every single damn panel of this comic, this would be an hour-long video, and no one wants to watch that. But all these adventures share a recurring theme, and that being the obstacle, the impossible, as mentioned before. Obstacles that, according to all known limitations and experiences Superman had, he shouldn't be able to overcome them. Physical challenges like fighting in a galactic boxing ring against an opponent much stronger than him, being presumed dead but still getting back up because an alien was able to see the importance of Superman, that time where he was able to process an entire zeta beam of light. I honestly don't know how this part works. There's a lot of wonky fictitious rules that I'm not going to pretend like I know, but it was cool because like the scientists told him that no one has ever survived something like this, and that according to all calculations he would not be able to survive it. But he did, because he's him. And there's also that time he got sent back in time during this whole thing and fought in a war. This journey also came with a lot of mental challenges, like Clark having to deal with, worrying about Lois, how she's doing back on Earth. It was a funny little issue seeing Clark have to consult with the workers of this communication station. I don't know, it was funny. I liked it. And another recurring theme in this whole thing is that Clark always finds a way to overcome it. Now you might say that's plot armor, but you're missing the point here. Superman is him. And I made a joke about it before, but I mean it. Like, that's Superman. What choice does he have? What choice do we have in a dire situation? How can you overcome something without believing or hoping that you can? It might as well be impossible if we don't have hope. Superman doesn't obey the laws of physics. Nothing about him should be a thing, but it just is. And he's driven by his hope. Now we have like a segment from Alice's POV where we learn she wasn't ever really in a good household. we get to learn about the girl who we're trying to save, and she often jumped from foster families to another. She talks about this race between the Flash and Superman, a charity race. Lex Luthor, being the petty arrogant billionaire that he is, bets $1 billion, literally, that Clark can't win because statistically he can't. The Flash earned the title of the fastest man alive. That's his thing. He has the speed force, blah 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 blah. And Lex knew that, and knew that Superman knew of his wager. And he also knew that Superman wouldn't cheat because that's who he is. He knew how much it would destroy him if he lost the race, and $1 billion would go to waste and not to charity. And it's even evident in the race itself when Barry overtakes him like miles ahead and Clark actually has to stop to catch his breath. And even though he knows he can't win, he still has to hold on to that hope, that burning feeling in him that causes him to barely beat the Flash. Alice is actually a really smart little kid, and what she says in this issue is just perfect. Superman is a contradiction, she says. When you hurt a lot but still have to be doing whatever, you learn something about contradiction, about Superman. Being faster than a bullet is a contradiction, but Superman's faster than a bullet. Being strong as a locomotive is a contradiction, but Superman's strong as a locomotive. Leaping tall buildings in a single bound is also a contradiction, but Superman leaps tall buildings in a single bound. A person flying is a contradiction. No one can fly, that's impossible. But Superman flies. Having hope when there's no hope is a contradiction, but Superman always has hope. The world is full of contradictions. They're stupid and they suck and they can stop you when you shouldn't be stopped, when you should be going, when you should be running and running and running and running. You're just stopped in a stupid, sucky contradiction. No matter what you do, how much you try, or even cry, or do anything at all, that's everything and everything. But Superman. But Superman. And that's what's so amazing about it. Again, nothing about it makes sense. He's an alien refugee from a destroyed planet far, far away who can fly and shoot lasers out of his eyes. None of that makes sense. None of that should happen, but it is. And we hold on to that. And that correlates exactly to what hope and faith are. It might not make sense to have any. It might be dumb and stupid, but it's there, and we hold on to it. Like Superman. Later on, there's this bit where Superman gets split into two, his Kryptonian and his human side, Kal-El and Clark. In this part, we get to see the conflict between Clark. The two sides are actually arguing with each other. Kal-El constantly claims that he's gonna leave Clark and go back to Earth, and that this whole thing is dumb and worthless and that he has better things to do. Clark, on the other hand, is still worried about Alice despite not having any powers, which just goes to show the humanity inside of him, while Kal keeps saying that he cannot save her and that it's impossible. Doesn't sound much like Superman, right? Now, despite his numerous claims saying that he'll leave, he continues to stay and continuously tries to justify why he can't and won't save Alice. Clark doesn't want to hear any of it and tells him to fuck off. Kal thinks Clark made him weak, and Clark thinks that Kal never made him strong. And after another argument, Kal actually leaves, but once again, he appears back on the planet, unable to leave, and continues trying to justify himself, but it's clear he doesn't understand himself or his motives, kinda showing a bit of cognitive dissonance. This ends up in them coming to a compromise. They need each other, and despite the two sides of Superman being completely different, their goals are the same. They want to help each other, to help people. Hope is a myth used to motivate men to do what they cannot. You know? You almost say that like it's a bad thing. I mean, some might find that corny. I don't personally, but if you don't either, just stick around, please. Yeah, you know, to each their own. His powers were never what made him special. It was his heart that did. Just imagine what that would be like. An Ubermensch who with his power could simply take over the world if he wanted to. And he has done so in other universes, but he doesn't. He has so many people to save, so many worlds to protect, so much responsibility, all while maintaining a normal life, which is more than Spider-Man can say. And yet, he still has time for you, specifically for Alice in this case, or for cats stuck in trees, or old ladies crossing the street. He has time. The next day we see Clark get up from bed with Lois, dressing up in his costume at normal speeds and not being in a rush to save someone or save the day. And he's able to listen to his beloved thoroughly without any worry. He's able to send his worst enemy to prison, having enough time to sit down and do his work, type an essay, enough time to eat junk food with his best friends, enough time to play at the playground with kids who look up to him, to take Lois out on a date on the moon. Again, save cats from trees, go home, get a full 8 hours of sleep. Life seems to be going great. Until it's not. Until you remember the context, until you remember what's happening, until you remember the contradictions, until you remember the impossible. Darkseid knows he can't break Superman. Everything that he went through was all orchestrated by him, so instead he traps the Man of Steel to industrial metal and forces him to live through this fake reality of a perfect world. Yet after all that, he's gonna have to decline. The chains that are used to hold him down are made of a metal that are used to haul stars between galaxies, forged under the pressure of an inverted black hole. Clark can try all he wants by all means, but it's impossible. Back on Earth, there's an invasion by the same people who took Alice, with a giant battalion of indestructible robots that are able to take down the Guardians of Earth one by one. Clark himself has to fight them on wherever he is. I have no idea where he is, I can't lie. They don't even tell us who the alien that kidnapped her is, but that's not the point. Yet even after all the other superheroes are defeated, Superman pulls through and takes down the army one by one. The leader screams at him, berates Alex for being a nobody, and that nobody would ever notice or care about her being gone, which just isn't true. After Superman wins, all the robots on Earth deactivate as well, and Alice is found and returned home. Not gonna lie, the script was much longer, but I just decided to cut it down, you know. Words can't describe how much I love this book. It's phenomenal, and it's quintessential Superman, and I can't do it justice, so I suggest you read it by yourself. It's only 6 issues, just go ahead, like, find it somewhere. I can't tell you how. And I know this has been said a lot recently, but we've seen so much evil Superman within the past few years, and that's gotten boring. Yes, it's done very well when it is, but right now I think we need the classic Big Blue. The most powerful being in the universe still has time for you, and will make time for you. Now, that's not to say that he's the most perfect being ever. Even he still has his flaws, and a perfect character, like, with no flaws is just a Gary Sue, a Mary Sue, or whatever, and that's boring, but he's not that. He still has his moments where he falters and struggles, especially with trying to fit in a world where he thought he belonged in, and I think that's really compelling. What we see here isn't a god among humans, it's a godlike being raised by humans. And actual humans. Like good people. This is a quote about Superman by Superframe, an amazing YouTuber. Cynicism is in wisdom, and hope is in naivety. Nowadays, we have so much romanticized cynicism disguising itself as realism when it's not. We have characters like Homelander and Lex Luthor whose ideals have somewhat bled into our society. Why are good values now seen as outdated and corny, and yet edginess isn't? Why do we have to conform to their standards and not the other way around? I believe in that a world of Homelanders, we should strive to be like Superman, like Clark Kent. To have hope when it feels like we shouldn't, and to be better. To beat the impossible.